Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Dee again, and welcome to the Interstate with Dee. Today is Saturday, March 15th, 2025. Welcome back to our trip on the Interstate. What we do here is present news from the state level that will end up having national importance later, or news that made it into the national news cycle but was overshadowed. Then we go over some questions from y'all. On this date, March 15th in 44 BC, Julius Caesar met his end when a group of senators decided he shouldn't be in charge anymore. Beware the Ides of March. Just a quick summary of the measles situation to start off. There are cases in Texas, New Mexico, Alaska, California, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Vermont. Some West Virginia residents are being warned they may have been exposed. Okay, and on to the news. In Alabama, the Hansfield Police Department will be restored eventually. Last month, a grand jury indicted a number of officers and the chief and recommended the department be shut down. The city council voted to suspend operations and find a new chief to deal with rebuilding the department. Arizona Republicans failed in their attempt to exempt certain developments from groundwater restrictions. California and 19 other states are suing the Trump administration to stop mass firing at the Department of Education. In Colorado, DOGE is reportedly terminating millions of dollars of leases. In Delaware-related news, Representative Sarah McBride, who is the first openly trans member of Congress, was misgendered during a meeting of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs. McBride responded in kind, saying, quote, "Thank you, Madam Chair." That prompted a bit of, heated discussion for a few seconds. Another representative came to her defense, and the whole thing ended when the meeting was abruptly adjourned. Georgia has been identified as one of the battleground 2026 Senate races. The Hawaii Food Bank boss said the organization is bracing after USDA cuts that will likely cut millions from their budget. The number of people using their services is growing, not declining. Kentucky bourbon makers are getting hit hard by fallout from Trump's trade wars. Michigan's governor met with Trump to discuss jobs in the state and said the meeting was productive and also touched on tariffs. In Minnesota, Democrat David Gottfried won the special election and brought the Minnesota House to a tie. In New Mexico, it was announced that Young Guns 3 was going to be produced. The original was shot almost 40 years ago. And now Belle feels old. I think the fact that she had the soundtrack on tape should have done that, though. In North Carolina, U.S. Representative Chuck Edwards ignored advice from Republican leadership about holding town halls. It turned out about how you would expect. The Republican congressperson was booed loudly and consistently, and was asked to answer for Trump's policies. In North Dakota, more than 20 Republican state senators voted against a Republican resolution to ask the Supreme Court to overturn same-sex marriage. They were successful in blocking it. If that sounds weird, and you're wondering why Republicans shot down their own bill, the Democratic Senate leader in the state said, quote, "There are many people, both Republicans and Democrats, recognize the hollow nature of the bill as documented by the 31 people who voted no. We only have 5 Democrats, but we did lead the opposition. We sincerely appreciate the Republicans who stood with us." Wisconsin Supreme Court candidates squared off in a debate, and Susan Crawford drew attention to reports that suggested her opponent said an 1849 abortion law was valid. And here's your weird state fact for this week. New Mexico is a really popular place to film movies. The state actively recruits movie production there through all kinds of incentives. Okay, so moving on to the question and answer portion of the show. And we're starting off with what I think is the first gotcha question I've ever gotten. Question number 1. D. What impact do you think the tariffs will have on states? I personally can't wait to see luxury American made cars again instead of Mercedes driving around my town. What foreign product do you want to disappear? Maps. I think all maps should be made in America. Like, the one that shows the Mercedes plant is in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. They export about 2/3 of their vehicles from the United States. The funny part is that some of the Mercedes made in Alabama are exported to Europe. I think there's also one in South Carolina. Question number 2. D. What do you think the most underreported national story is? What are the others on the team not covering that you think they should? I think the EPA basically saying that climate change isn't a thing and rolling back just tons of environmental regulations is probably the biggest thing that isn't being reported. But they'll get to it. Larger networks aren't really covering it either. That's a huge one that's being overlooked. Okay, that looks like it. We'll see you next week for another trip. Y'all have a good day.